The task is now mine to bring the court team down on these debates on Budget 2019. This is the fifth occasion on which I'm doing so in the familiar atmosphere of 32 empty green chairs on the western side. But it's familiar and we have come accustomed to it. As usual, Mr. Speaker, I would like to start by thanking and recognizing several persons who have contributed to the shaping of Budget 2019. I would first like to thank His Excellency President David Granger, whose indomitable spirit will allow him to win the health battle he is currently fighting. We all wish him well and a speedy return to full health, so that he can continue to lead this nation and this coalition government. Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank my two colleagues on this side for their continued and unstinted support in and out of this House. I would like to thank our budget and allied staff of the Ministry of Finance, who, operating as team unity, has shown that our limits are defined only by what we believe. I would also like to thank the honorable members of the opposition, without whom there can be no debate. Their usual and predictable absence is a blot on the business of this House. To you, Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank you for your astute time management of these debates. I hope it will be extended to next week's consideration of the estimates of expenditure. Mr. Speaker, as noted in my budget presentation, this is the third time that the budget has been presented in this House before the start of the fiscal year. After some apprehension, the private sector has begun lauding this sensible approach to budgeting by this government. The records will show that only Frank Hope's 1976 budget, which was presented on November 24, 1975, is earlier than Budget 2019. All right. It is true that our technicians, administrators, and others are still coming to grips with starting the year with a full budget. But progress has been made in their quest to unlearn a culture that had permeated the budgeting environment for nearly 4 decades. Mr. Speaker, a number of speakers on the opposition benches attempted to define what a budget is. I can remember distinctly Honorable Lubumba's forthright statement that a budget is not about numbers. It is about policies, or something to that effect that he was saying. If the honorable member needed any reminding, he could have done so by referring to Budget 2017, where at page 1, it is stated that a budget serves the critical functions of, quote, economic management, financial management, management of government, and effective implementation of government policies, end of quote. So, to the honorable members Lubumba and those others who were thinking alike, a budget is as much numbers as it is about policies. It is how we weld these together to create the ultimate good life for all Guyanese, for which we set out as our goal. Mr. Speaker, I believe it was Indira Gandhi, former Prime Minister of India, who is credited with indicating that, quote, it is the opposition's duty to oppose, expose, and if possible, depose, end of quote. Well, Mr. Speaker, these debates have shown up an opposition that has become jaded, bereft of ideas and new thinking. An opposition that continues to take the easy road by regurgitating their yearly presentations. And the Hansard can testify to this assertion of mine. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, I felt your pain when you were moved to express openly your wish for members to raise the level of their contributions. This is a serious indictment on the quality of these debates and a disservice to the people of this country. In their typical manner, Mr. Speaker, the opposition opposed everything in the budget, yes, as indeed they have done for the past 4 budgets. Almost all of them ended their presentations with, quote, "I cannot support this budget." Mr. Speaker, the Hansard will bear me out that this refrain, quote, "I cannot support this budget," is not unfamiliar. Even if we did everything that the opposition asks, they will still not support this budget. And I could recall Honorable Gango Prasad cried that the newly laid East Coast Demerara Road, for example, was too smooth. Yeah. So it's not that we don't have a road anymore. Now the road is too smooth. You see why you can't please those on the western side? That's because it is in their DNA to oppose, to be adversarial, and so forth. To them, social cohesion and unity are just meaningless concepts to be waved around. There's this overpowering sense that they must be in charge for everything to go right. This is an opposition, Mr. Speaker, that refused to take up their seats on boards, on commissions, and on committees. This is opposition, Mr. Speaker, who refused to attend budget consultation meetings so that they could cry wolf and cry foul after not attending. Mr. Speaker, the opposition is supposed to expose. But instead, they were exposed during these budgets for their hollowness and shallowness. They were exposed, Mr. Speaker, for example, for bringing to this House a variant of the TV series Sex, Drugs, and Videotape. In fact, I would like to call it Sex, Drugs, and Mask and Tape. Honorable Joseph Hamilton, in his presentation, seemed to be so enraptured by the beauty of the monument in Madhya that he transported it to Letem during his presentations, only to realize that he had done so without lubricants to stimulate the economy. Mr. Speaker, is this the extent to which debate in this House has degenerated? An opposition member using sexually charged language to drive home his point of what he perceives to be nothing happening in an economy. I say shame on you, sir. Shame. His ploy is no different than that employed in the advertising industry where women are exploited, yes, for nefarious gains.
Shame on them too.
Mr. Speaker, on the drugs part, we had the Honorable Dr. Frank Anthony and the Honorable Dr. Vishnu Mahadeo making allegations about drug shortages that were vehemently denied by Honorable Valda Lawrence, yes, and substantially refuted with facts, figures, and refutations by senior officials in at least one hospital. On this aspect of refutation also, Mr. Speaker, I also indicate that the Guyana Rice Development Board had refuted certain statements also made by the Honorable Dan Kumar Siraj. And then, Mr. Speaker, we have the mask and tape, an allegory for the opposition blinding themselves to the progressive policies, projects, and programs that inhere in Budget 2019 that are designed to benefit all Guyanese. They were exposed to, Mr. Speaker, for attempting to falsify statistics, numbers, and calculations. You know, Mr. Speaker, I'm reminded by a little saying I see run around, I saw it on social media, that says statistics are like bikinis. What they reveal may be enticing, but it's what they conceal that is vital.
All right, miss, all right.
We have the case of Honorable Irfan Ali, referring to government expenditure on personal security. And he was indicating that government was incurring expenditure largely on personal security. Now, I don't know how many of my colleagues have personal security, but I don't.
You do.
Fair amount. See what I told you about statistics? But first of all, I don't understand how we came to that conclusion, simply because there's no chart of account in the estimates that is called personal security. So this is just playing again to the gallery, Mr. Speaker. The allocation in the 2019 budget is for $5.7 billion, and it represents a 15.3% increase over the 2018 revised position. Now, of this amount, Mr. Speaker, 60% of this increase, or $458 million, is to expand the provision of security services to our schools across the country. Now, I heard the Honorable Leader of the Opposition saying we put in security guard in the toilet. Well, so be it. So be it, Mr. Speaker. If we have to put it there to protect our children, then we will incur the cost to do so. Almost 100 million, Mr. Speaker, or 12% of the increase is related to the provision of security in health facilities across the country. People will tell you, Mr. Speaker, when you go certain times to even to the Georgetown Hospital, particularly on the weekends, there can be a security challenge there. You know, and the doctors feel afraid and the nurses feel afraid when families and relatives and friends and so on get exuberant when treatment is not meted out to their family or their friends and so forth. So we have to protect our doctors and our nurses and our teachers and our school children. And it's a cost that we're prepared to bear, Mr. Speaker. It's not personal security. Indeed, some of us need personal security based on some of the things that have been said in this house and out of this house. But we are thoroughbreds. And the remaining 200 million, Mr. Speaker, is the cost of providing security services across the remaining 89 programs within the central government. I think also, Mr. Speaker, we must appreciate too that it's this government that raised the minimum wage of the private sector, I believe last year, and therefore security rates went up, and for which we have to meet. So, Mr. Speaker, there is no such thing that personal security is causing a almost $1 billion increase. And that, Mr. Speaker, is a fact. We also have the Honorable Irfan Ali making mincemeat about inflation. See what we talk about statistics? The goodly gentleman was adding up percentages and getting an overall percentage increase. And I believe the Honorable Jaipal Sharman mentioned this in his presentation. But I think it's worth restating, because what we see in this house is a pattern of falsifying statistics to create confusion and to leave in the minds of the public of something that is not really happening. So you have a situation when we speak about inflation, where he says, if we have 3 products, bread, milk, and eggs, each one costing $100, and the price of bread went up by 1%, and the price of eggs went up by 2%, and the price of milk went up by 3%, that the total increase in prices is 6%. 1 plus 2 plus 3 equals 6. 6%. Now, which school these people went to, Mr. Speaker? I mean, this is the level of numeracy we are having in this country. And this is the level to which degreed people have sunk. That you could add 1%, 2%, 3%, and get that the overall increase is 6%. But let's see if we could do it the right way how we were taught as little ABC children. A 1% increase of $100, $1. A 2% increase in another $100, $2. A 3% increase in another $100 is $3. The total increase is $6. So if you were spending $300 on these three items, you're now spending $306. Now 6 divided by original base 300 equal 2% increase. So you see, Mr. Speaker, you see how simple it is? ABC. Now we on this side could give lessons. Right. I've said this in this house before. I'm prepared to give free lessons where this is concerned. But this thing, Mr. Speaker, I will continue to show how this is a pattern of disinformation using statistics. So you have a 2% increase overall in prices that is being shouted from the rooftop that is a 6% increase. And we're killing the consumers, and we're killing poor people, and so forth. Continuing in this vein, Mr. Speaker, you have the Honorable Gillian Borton Prasad. And this member took a 0.5% of $1 million and came up with $20,000 increase. Now let's see if we could do the maths again, Mr. Speaker. No. 10% of $1 million is 100,000. That's all. 1% of 100,000, right? 10,000. Therefore, half of the 1% is 5,000. How can the honorable member take 0.5% of $1 million and get 20,000? Because she wants to show, the honorable member wants to show that even though 0.5% was given to the higher bracket, they are going to end up taking home more, $20,000, than the person who gets 7% at the minimum wage. They get $4,200. When in fact, $4,200 should be compared with $5,000, which gives the more accurate picture that it's the bottom that we have favored in the salary increases that we have given. That is no mistake, Mr. Speaker. It was done deliberately. Yes. Because as you could see right through the range of speakers, it is a pattern. It is a pattern to falsify statistics in this honorable house. In this honorable house. If it were a mistake, then it would have been one. But it is a pattern. I will continue the pattern and show you, Mr. Speaker. The Honorable Vishnu Mahadeo, Honorable Dr. Vishwa Mahadeo. That's all? Correct. Correct. He came to this house and said, we budgeted $100 million to build a monument in Wismar or in Linden for the Linden martyrs that their government killed. That's right. That their government killed when the people were protesting for their rights. We didn't kill no sugar worker. We did not kill a single sugar worker when the sugar worker were protesting. We did not. And nobody should be killing anybody because they're protesting for their rights. These were unarmed people protesting for their rights, and they were killed. We have budgeted a mere $5 million in the 2019 budget to recognize those martyrs. And I'm asking my section here to revisit the compensation that was given to those people. Because you know why, Mr. Speaker? Not only that they should get it, but think about it. The total compensation given to those people was less than the compensation given to one commissioner. Right. Just one commissioner got more than the total compensation given to those people. Yes. Shameful. And I'm asking my government to see it in their heart, somewhere along before our term is finished, to redress, to correct this egregious wrong that was done to those people. One commissioner got more than the total given to all of those people. That is how cheap life is in this country. For certain people. Oh, Vikram Bharat. I'm sorry, Vikram Bharat. My apologies to Mr. Vishwamadu. Vikram Bharat. Then we have the Honorable Anil Nandalal. Anil Nandalal. The Honorable Nandalal made this incredible statement that the national debt has doubled, I presume, since we came into office, Mr. Speaker. It appears as no matter how much official documents you bring to this House, no matter how much official documents you can pull down from the IMF or the World Bank or the IDB, these are totally irrelevant when they come to this House and make their presentation, erroneous presentation. This document, which has now become an official document of this House, presented only maybe 2 months ago or no more than 3 months ago. If we go to page 7, page 9. At page 9, Mr. Speaker, chapter 3, total public debt. What does it say here? The total public debt stock in Guyana declined from $355.8 billion in 2013 to $345 billion at the end of 2017. Does that sound to you like something was doubled?
Yeah, the shots.
Isn't this, Mr. Speaker, a pattern that is developing here of deception in this honorable House, Mr. Speaker? And I ask, Mr. Speaker, the next time this statement is going to be brought to this House, we will ask that they produce the evidence of the 200 taxes that they continue as a mantra that we have increased since we've come to this to power.
Yes, yes.
Reality, we have not increased a single tax since we've come to this country. Let's see our record. Let us see our record. We have reduced the VAT from 16% to 14%. We reduced the income tax on companies, commercial, non-commercial companies, forced from 30% to 27.5%. And in the 2019, from January 1, it will be 25%. You want to hear what Mr. Ramesh Dukua said? He says, personally, quote, personally, I never believed that in 2019 we would have seen a corporate tax rate for manufacturers of 25%. I must commend the Minister of Finance, Winston Jordan, for putting pedal to the metal. And we have reduced the income tax rate to public servants and all those employees out there from 30% to 28%.
That's right.
And we have increased their threshold from 600,000 when we came in to 780,000 come January 1. And we have also instituted a 1/3. So those middle class and not so middle going upwards can take 1/3 of their gross income as their threshold, as their free pay, as we call it. We removed the income tax that was on your NIS contributions. And we have made a range of products, removed them from the exempt list to the zero list. We have done all, we have provided a range of concessions in the budget. There has been no series of budgets, I believe, in the history of this country that have the type of tax exemptions and tax relief that this government has given over the last 5 budgets. And that is why we said this is a private sector friendly government, and this particular budget is a private sector friendly budget. Here again, our good friend Duku. Here again is our good friend Duku, Ramesh Duku. He says, Budget 2019 contains good social and private sector measures. He noted such measures as the reduction of income and corporate tax to 25% was a good measure that will encourage small business to grow and be successful. He said that the continued measures to reduce taxes is a relief to local companies and serves as an incentive for international companies seeking work in Guyana. And what it means for the manufacturing sector is that persons who are involved in manufacturing would have more money to plow back into their businesses, retool, recapitalize, and even open new manufacturing businesses in Guyana. That is Mr. Ramesh Duku. And then you have still the Honorable Anil Nandalal speaking about the growth in GDP. No, it's amazing. I thought the Honorable Nandalal is a practicing lawyer, right? And I was literally concerned when I saw the notes and it says Anil Nandalal. But then I realized what happened. It appears that Honorable Irfan Ali had done such a bad job that they were scrambling towards the late end to get somebody to come with some economic and financial aspects of the budget. But poor Mr. Nandalal, out of his debt. I will just leave what else he said and just think about the last one, where apparently this foot and mouth disease that we thought that we had gotten rid of seems to be still around and can be contagious.
Affecting our exports.
It was the honorable gentleman who spoke about commercial banks being safe barometers of the economy and that the actions of Baroda and Scotia represent the verdict. The verdict of what, Mr. Speaker? The verdict of what? The first thing is, Mr. Speaker, contrary to a byline carried in Kaichor News today, is that this didn't come as no surprise to us. Baroda pulling out didn't come as no surprise to us. Not to them, I think, easily. We knew since April. It was signaled to us in April that Baroda was pulling out of Guyana. We tried during the interregnum between then and today when the news, or yesterday when the news came out, to persuade them that doing business in Guyana is good. But alas, the local office wasn't able maybe to persuade their headquarters. In fact, I learned that the local office chief didn't even know that such a decision had been made until he was informed, you know. So what is important is what is happening generally around the world. And it didn't start yesterday, it's just galloping, so to speak. The point being made is these banks consider doing business in these states not profitable anymore. It's not that it's not making profits, but it's not profitable for them to continue because the risks have increased dramatically. They have to contend with this farm and this regulation and that regulation and so forth. They have FATCO to deal with. They have the anti-money laundering regulations and so forth to deal with. So they don't consider our territories to be profitable, investable territories anymore. And if you read the article in today's papers that was carried by Kaichor News, it says plainly why they were pulling out. And not only Guyana they're going to be pulling out from, it's indicated that they will be pulling out sometime from Trinidad, they will be pulling out from Africa, they will be pulling out from New Zealand, they've already pulled out from the Bahamas, you know. And they said their focus is Middle East and parts of Europe. United Kingdom, Japan, Singapore, Dubai, and so forth. They don't want anything to do with us here. That's a fact of life. Scotia is the same thing. Scotia is the same thing. They're pulling up worldwide. Almost everybody in the Caribbean, they're pulling up and they're selling out and going. So what we have to do really is to see opportunity in these challenges. And the opportunities exist for our businessmen locally, businessmen in diaspora, and so on, to step up to the plate and get involved in these businesses. That's where our opportunity lies. Because, Mr. Speaker, let's be very, very blunt. With 5 billion and counting barrels of oil,
Sweetest thing ever.
who's pulling out and for what reason? Who's not willing to take a risk with 5 billion? American Airlines are here. United Airlines are talking. They're more on the calendar. And they will all line up. It will galvanize. Once that forest barrel comes up, it will galvanize. So nobody's going to run from Guyana because they see a bleak future in Guyana. In fact, Mr. Speaker, within the banking sector, here are some of the headlines. In the banking sector, Republic Bank, this is Starbuck News, 26 November 2018. Republic Bank profit up by 14.4%. 14.4%. Demerara Bank records $2 billion in profits. This is October 18, 2018. Demerara Bank records $2 billion in profits. And I believe we have here Citizens Bank, is where you belong, records a 51.6% increase in after-tax profits. 51.6% increase in after-tax profits. And those are 3 banks in Guyana. Does that look or sound to you like the verdict is in? That these banks are pulling out because there's doom and gloom in Guyana? No, there's not. But I think it was just a wicked, right, piece of commentary that was made by this gentleman, again, to satisfy a certain audience. When the reality, not that he doesn't know the reality, he knows the reality also of what he's saying, or the untruth of what he's saying. So, Mr. Speaker, as I said, we have to be careful in this House of what we're letting into the Hansard, because ulterior motives are afoot. I'm back to the Honorable Irfan Ali. And he alleged that President Granger spent $1 billion on travel. This devastating untruth, told in this House at a time when our President is not enjoying the best of health, at a time when the President cannot defend himself in this House, was rightfully refuted and destroyed by Honorable Joseph Harmon. Such palpable untruths have consequences in this House, as one honorable member on the opposition bench has found out. I'm sure this one will have consequences too. While we wait to hear what those are, let me now fill you in upon some travel numbers. So, Mr. Speaker, I have here the overseas conference and official visits made between 2012 and 2018. In 2012, the budget for overseas travel was $270 million. You know how much I spent, Mr. Speaker? In 2012, $343,431,000. Almost $100 million more was spent on traveling.
Shame.
spent on traveling, and the Honorable Prime Minister just told us who was doing the traveling. Did I hear somebody say?
Champion of the dirt. Champion of the dirt.
In 2013, Mr. Speaker, the budget for overseas travel was $343 million. They spent $412,071,000. In 2014, the budget was $392 million, sorry, in 2014. But that was coming close to the election, so they pulled back. The actual was $352,621,000. Now enters the new government in office in 2015. We came in, we set the budget at the same amount, $392 million. But you know how much was spent? $263,567,000. Does this sound like a person who was traveling all over the place? In 2016, we made a conscious decision to cut the travel vote. Yes. And so it was cut from $392 million in 2015 to $360 million in 2016. And of that 360, we only spent $232,726,000. In 2017, we made another conscious decision to cut the travel vote further. So we cut it from $360 million the year before to $300 million. $300 million. And so in 2017, of the $300 million, we spent $294,305,000. In 2018, it is still $300 million. And based on the spending so far, we will be spending significantly less than $300 million. So at no time in this government's time have we ever exceeded the travel vote. And not only that we didn't exceed, we were bringing down the budgeted amount, and we are facing higher rates, higher exchange rate, higher travel rates, and everything else than 4 years ago when they were in power. And they traveled royally. Ministers of this government travel business class. Well, as I indicated in this house, I have the Hansard here, Friday, 9th of December, 2016. As I had indicated back then in this house, the prince and princesses traveled royally. I'm at page 82. And I'm quoting, our people travel business class, which is our people. And here's an example. On the 20th to the 30th of January 2015, going to Geneva, this minister, an honorable member who was in this house, and who was a presidential advisor, at that time was speaking by none other than Honorable Gail Teixeira, went to Geneva. Of course, the minister traveled first class, not business class. The hotel accommodation, remember these rates here up to what I've read to the house, Geneva is in Europe, and therefore she would have been entitled to $250 per night. She took 5 nights at $500 per night. $500 per night, when the stipulated rate approved by the cabinet at that time was $250. And I'm not even going there the telephone bill, Mr. Speaker. So it is amazing, Mr. Speaker. It is amazing, Mr. Speaker, that when it comes to this house, people who are coming to equity are not coming with clean hands. But they think they're dealing with people who have short memories. Mr. Speaker, we don't have short memories. In fact, yours truly who's standing up here have a very long memory. He operated in the belly of the beast. He knows what the beast gives. He knows where the bones are buried. And I'm telling you, Mr. Speaker, when they come in, they have to come good. Because I know where the skeletons lie. Mr. Speaker, the opposition is also tasked with strenuously trying to depose the government. Why else, other than mischief, a craving for media attention, and a penchant for behaving like the Grinch, trying to steal Christmas from our people, would they bring a confidence motion when it does not have a majority in the House? Oh, but wait a minute, Mr. Speaker. They are banking on a member of our side voting with them to unseat the government. I say to you, the opposition, we like it on the eastern side of this House. None of us, and I repeat, none of us will be afflicted to exercise a conscience vote. All of us will be voted solidly against the no confidence motion. We will defeat you not only with the strength of our numbers, but the correctness of our policies. So in the words of the Honorable Amna Ali, bring it on. The opposition seems to think that they're showing in an otherwise poor turnout at the local government polls is a reason to salivate about their likely success at the general elections in 2020. Well, Mr. Speaker, I say to them, it will take more than that to unseat this popularly elected government. And so, when the elections bell rings in 2020, we will see who's still left standing to go the proverbial mile and a quarter.
Yes, 10 furlongs.
10 furlongs. As they say, Mr. Speaker, fancy gallop don't win race. We're thoroughbreds, as Honorable Prime Minister reminded. Just like Sports Desk and King's Bounty. You all remember them horses?
Yes, yes.
Sports Desk and King's Bounty. Two famous local race horses when Durban Park was the home of horse racing in Guyana. We have stamina, Mr. Speaker. And I prove it at 6-1. With 5 budget presentations.
All right.
The longest being 2019. We have stamina here, Mr. Speaker.
All right.
And when the elections are over and the verdict is in, the opposition will have been sentenced to permanent residence on the western side of the House. Mr. Speaker, continuing this trend of falsifying statistics, I seem to remember Honorable Dr. Vinyo Prasad perusing the budget and finding that we are spending $6 billion in feasibility studies. $6 billion in feasibility studies. Mr. Speaker, as indicated by Honorable David Paddison, a number of projects under the previous government were done without the benefit of feasibility studies. And we, the taxpayers, Mr. Speaker, are paying dearly for these missteps and for these mistakes. You can name them. The Skeldon Modernization Project, the Malio Falls Project, the Specialty Hospital, right? You name them, they're there. None is giving us a return today. None of them. is giving us a return today. And we, the taxpayers, have to be paying for projects that were meant to give us a return, that were meant to add to our capital stock. The goodly LOL, Lou, LOO, the Honorable LOO, leader of opposition, he talked about how we're not adding to capital stock, all we're doing is maintenance. Well, we are maintaining up to this day infrastructure that we inherited from the previous government. Infrastructure that should be working for us right now. Infrastructure that should have been working for us right now. $200 million US in Skeldon. 200 million of borrowed money. You think Skeldon or Gaisuko can pay back 200 million US dollars? So who has to pay it back? It's me, you, and all the taxpayers who happen to be paying taxes, who will have to pay it. A road to nowhere, Honorable Prime Minister just mentioned it. A road to nowhere, Amalia Falls Road, 45 million US dollars. Who had to pay for it? Taxpayers. And they're doing analysis from 2014 we were in. This was the number. 2019, this is the number. Well, a lot in there is due to the missteps of the last government. A lot of it. Today, we got a lot of money. Banks are falling over to lend us money. But they want to know if we have feasibility studies done on the projects that we want to implement. And that is why you see so much money in the budget. Because we have to create a project bank of projects for which the feasibility study has already been done. And therefore now we can go and look for financing. We have to stop the idea of going and look for financing on project ideas. Project ideas.
Turn up with the airport with money.
Yes, just like how the man turn up with the money for the airport, there's no study, take 130 million, we say thank you.
What we can do with it?
As a result of no feasibility studies, they start at the wrong place, they get quicksand, we abandon it, we go to the other side. And the Ramon McCray thing with the shaking all over the place, he wants to know, we talk about doing Linden Highway last year, we talk about doing it the year before and so on. And we're talking about it next year and the following year too. You know why we have to talk to it? Because it's not about throwing little bitumen on the Linden Highway that they did back in 1993 or when the government came in with the CDB loan. Right. There was a safety zone that you should not have crossed when it comes to the Linden Highway. But because of lack of monitoring or poor monitoring and supervision or blind eye being torn, this safety zone was breached, thereby compromising the Linden-Soesbike Highway. So it's no longer you throwing little bitumen on it and say it look good. The road has been heavily compromised. So now you have to go now and do geological or whatever thing they call it, surveys, to find out if it has centipede cracks or whatever it is and so forth, dig up the highway and so on, so that we could build a proper road that serves as part of the conduit for the Linden-Lethem road. And the road has to be able to take on how much wheelers you're talking and so forth. So this is not a case where you could just go get a loan, $17 million, throw down some bitumen and say we did road. We have to do these things properly. Correct. There has been a study, I am told, where it has been shown that the Ghana gets the lowest return on dollar invested in its public sector investment program. And part of the reason for that is because many of these projects didn't have the benefit of feasibility studies to determine whether you should go or no go. So this is a change in what had happened in the past. Also being changed is the issue of projects that are financed purely from the budget, not foreign financing. These projects also will have to go through a rigorous project selection criteria before they get into the budget. Because we have to stop this thing where we just going after, doing projects, the budget look big, but when we look 6 months down the road, 3 months down the road, the project not properly done, shouldn't have been done the same in that place. We have situations where projects were built and the residents say, I don't want it. I mean, I think a classic case is done by the Monipo market. That was built with grant money. But yet when you pass Monipo, it's a chaos on certain days where you have a market, nobody wants it. So where was the feasibility? Where was the consultation? Where was everything that caused us to use grant money on a facility that nobody wants? So we have to stop this. Otherwise, it's going to be a case where we will be continuously in this cycle of doing projects just because it's election, doing projects because it happened to be our ethnic community, doing projects because it happened to be our political community, and at the end of the day, it does no one any good. So on that, Mr. Speaker, I would wish to say, yes, feasibility studies are a fact of life, and they are going to be a way of life continuously in our budget. Mr. Speaker, I'm going to come to the goodly gentleman who was given almost 3 hours. But I want to deal quickly with severance, because it was dealt with already by the Honorable Prime Minister. But I just want to make a quick mention of it, because the Honorable Bar Jagdeo talked about, okay, so we claimed how we have to give Gaisuko all this money. Now the money gone, we don't have to give Gaisuko anymore. So what happened to the wages, and what happened to this, and what happened to that? I really don't follow the deduction, the reasoning, or whatever we want to call it. But to me, it sounds like good politics. After all, the TV is there, and when you're saying these things and going out to the community out there, people are riled up. Yes, they got $2 billion now. What are they doing with it? Essentially. Well, Mr. Speaker, this is so unfair, but life was never fair. Let's start first with the severance. Can you imagine having given Gaisuko, since we came into government, 38, not 37, $38.5 billion up to the end of 2018. Having given them $38.5 billion, we had to turn around and find severance pay. Just when I thought we could have given the public servants a bit, we had to turn around and find severance pay to pay the sugar workers. Right? $5 billion. Just when we look around to find the money, the court puts a little thing on us. Boy, you got to pay with interest too. So we have to go again now and find interest to pay with the severance. But we did it. If the court says so, we are legal, honorable people. The court says so, we must do so. So we did it. We paid the severance to the workers. I understand Wales started today and will end tomorrow. Everybody happy, it's Christmas. I hope they don't spend it out. But, Mr. Speaker, having now hopefully gotten Gaisuko off our backs, figuratively, because when this statement was used in the previous time, the language apparently was way above the individual's head, and they literally took it and felt that they were monkeys. So, but having hopefully got Gaisuko off our backs, we are now turning attention to the areas that we should have been given attention to. Yes. And that is why, for example, you can have a budget of $300.7 billion that caters for everybody in a bigger way, in a bigger way than in before. And that is why we can promise our public servants that they will get increases in 2019 before oil, and 2020 once the oil starts flowing. It makes a lot of sense to go around telling people, oh, it's only 8% they get and so on. Well, 8% to the teachers is over $1 billion plus. Because the 8% plus the 350 came up to 1 point something billion dollars. 1.5? They're about $1.5 billion. Okay? And the little $1,000 that we gave to the pensioners, God bless all the pensioners, all of them. I haven't met one who has said, well, I haven't met one pensioner who said, man, only $1,000. They were quite happy.
Yes.
Quite happy. And if I see a smile on my mother's face when she got $1,000, I'm happy too.
That's right.
$1,000 given to pensioners plus public assistance is almost $1 billion. It's almost $1 billion I have to find for that. So it's not that we don't want to give pensioners $25,000 or $30,000. I'd love to see the day when we could do that. But one dirty bill down. And when we came in, it was only 13,000 plus. Today it's 20,500. Amen? 20,500 from 13,000. And they want to know what we're doing with the money? Talk to the person who's getting a minimum wage of 39,000 plus. Now it's $64,000, $64,200. The fastest rise in wages. So fast that private sector people are calling me worried that we are raising the public servants' wages, minimum wage, too fast. It's going to have implications for their competitiveness and their ability to export. And we have to be wary that we don't draw people as a result of these fast rises in wages from the private sector into the public sector. So those are considerations we genuinely have to deal with. You know, after all, we want a private sector that thrives and grows, a private sector that is creating wealth, not the government. We want the private sector to be one. And so we do not want to do anything that will be injurious. Anything that will be injurious to our private sector. Once, of course, they pay their taxes. So, Mr. Speaker, we have paid the severance, and we've paid the transfers and so on. But going forward in 2019, we expect that the savings now as a result of not having to pay Guy Suko, and pay anybody else, to be quite honest, because we're tired of paying public corporations. Paying public corporations will be used in a number of areas to treat with the social security, to treat with the pensions, and importantly, to treat with our infrastructure. To treat with our infrastructure. And I'm sure there are smiles in all the communities as you go around, as they heard their names called and the roads finally. I got a lot of smiles. Finally, they said South Ryanville. God, it cost me out. They say you live in South Ryanville and look at our roads. Finally, they said South Ryanville. And I'm sure other communities are quite happy that we are going to look at their roads. And you know, when I looked at the picture that Honorable David sent to me about the little paving that they have done on the East Coast Road, I said, finally, we're looking upscale. You know, the picture of this road, the quality of the road. The quality of the road and so on. I could just imagine when it's finished and they put on the markings and so on, the international standard within which this road would have been done. And I think this is what worries the next government. It is what worrying them. Of course, the big worry is the extra 1 billion barrel that was found. At 5 billion barrels, they do the quick maths. You carry a knot across, divide by 2, put back another knot. It comes up to $1 trillion. Oh my God, we're going to be out of power? This can't happen. So we have to beware of wounded lions. They are the most dangerous. So we can't lower our guard when it comes to things. And we saw it today. We saw it today in the foaming and the frothing that took place by the honorable leader of the opposition. That is why you have to beware. The propaganda will thicken and it will expand. It will expand. And we at all times and timely, we have to counter the propaganda and sell our programs while we're doing it. and sell our programs. That's why we do it. That's why I will reiterate, there was no new taxes on this government. No new taxes. No new taxes. There was reduction in taxes. There was increases in thresholds. All that we said, we are trying to broaden the tax base. Now they talk about how much taxes. Yeah, there's a big mantra, taxes in the budget. But this is being achieved without a single new tax. Jordan is not a wizard. This is straight economics. As the base widens, as you bring more people in, the tax will go up. Now that the taxes go up, we can reduce rates further. Bear in mind, as Mr. Duku has said, he did not believe that we were going to put manufacturing to 25% within our forced term. And we did it. That's because not only that we are true to what we said, it's because we believe that we must continue to give incentives to our private sector so that they could thrive and grow. And this is not the only measure that they are going to benefit from in this budget. They are benefiting from property tax, capital gains tax, wear and tear, export allowance, their remissions being paid up front, their refunds being paid up front. A glorious measure. Nobody don't have to wait anymore 10 years, 5 years, how many years, and wait on the budget to get refunds. Now, once GRA, after these laws are passed, once GRA has a refund for you, they have to pay you, and they can make that payment out of current revenues before they remit it to the consolidated fund. Isn't this something? I don't know how many you got refunds to get, but this is a measure clearly that will put money and certainty. Put money in people's pockets and put certainty to people getting back their refunds. And this will galvanize people to pay their taxes. Because if you know you're going to get your refunds, and you're not going to get the bureaucracy that says you got to wait on some budget to pass or for them to put it in, people are going to pay their taxes. At least certainly the rate ought to be going up slightly more. And again, as I said, once the base continues to broaden, we commit to the public that we will continue to reduce taxes and increase the threshold for the And Mr. Speaker, I will take my next half an hour or so to speak to Mr. Honorable Member, Mr. Jagdeo. Yes. There's a lot that he said, and I don't know if I will get through, but I will try as much as possible to see how far we will get with this. Mr. Speaker, look, there is no doubt that the economy has been evolving over the last 3 years. It has been going through some growing pains, and it has to adjust to an economy that is legal. That is legal. All right. I said it, and I'll say it again. I know among the private sector could ask me, prove it and all kinds of story. You don't prove a fact. A fact is a fact. And it was a criminalized state for which many benefited, if they don't want to call the name. Many benefited. And where drugs wasn't involved, whole-scale giveaway of our national patrimony was involved. Whole-scale. Whole-scale. And the Honorable Member talks about remissions. I can tell you, I have the numbers here. In 2014, because the reference here seems to be 2014, in 2014, remissions of taxes was $92.4 billion. Wow. $92.4 billion. And you didn't have Exxon and those companies then? Who got $92.4 billion in remissions? Who? Who? We know all the names. We could call all the names in here. And we know their links to certain people in the former government. Yes. $92.4 billion in remissions
Where is he?
in 2014. When we came into power, we, of course, we made certain adjustments and certain cutouts and so on. So the remissions reduced dramatically by 2017. In 2017, remissions were $64.3 billion. $64.3 billion in 2017. In 2018, they've gone up to $85.9 billion. It's not because we've become more profligate. It's Exxon now coming in now, ramping up for 2020. So that is expected. Because the laws that have come here in this house and have been passed 2 or 3 times give them complete duty-free and tax-free and so on and so forth. And they have ramped up. You got how many out there? 3 drill ships, how many ships, food, all kinds of stories. So that is what is causing that there. And what the ministers them either don't know, don't understand, or don't appreciate is that on the balance of payment, you will have a situation where all the current items that are coming in going to come as imports. But they will be financed by the capital side because it's foreign direct investment that is coming into the country. And that's on the capital side of the balance of payment. Now, why you have this large current account deficit on the balance of payment? It's simple. On that import side, you have large chunks of imports, capital items, and so on, particularly for the people who drilling out there and so. And you also have a situation where you don't have cheap oil anymore. Oil has increased dramatically in price over the last year. It has increased dramatically in price, and it will increase further even if prices stabilize today because the oil is no longer coming out of Petrotin in Trinidad. That has closed down. So we have to go further afield looking for oil. We don't have tankers. So we can't get economies of scale even if the price of oil falls on the local, on international market. We got a little 2x2 boat. A little 2x2 comes in, got to go this long journey now and bring in quarter pint. By the time it reaches and it puts it out, it got to turn around again to get another quarter. Until we could dig out the bar, the Georgetown Harbor, and we could get larger boats that we could, and have the storage capacity built in Guyana, we will face this situation. So don't go around hollering how prices gone down at the international level, but it's still high in Guyana. That's a fact of life. We got a little boat. We don't get the economies of scale. We don't buy spot. We buy spot, we don't buy futures. Spot means you go there, wherever the price, you take it, you put it in the thing, and you come back here. Futures, you got long-term contracts, we lock you into a price. So this price is we're going to hold for the contract period. We don't have that capacity. Nobody want to lock in you for 2 gallons of gas. 2 million gallons, yes, but 2 gallons of gas, nobody got time to lock you in no futures with that. This is the reality. I mean, this is the reality. They love to holler, oh, prices going down, but you still prices still high. International price is not the price we face. It's when we turn up what we bought. Nobody say, here, the price today is, oh, all right, full up. And you turn around, you come back here. But I'm indicating to you, the prices will go. Happily, we made representations to the CARICOM Council, and they have agreed to suspend the CUT. So when we go now ex-CARICOM, which is outside of CARICOM to get the fuel, we wouldn't have to pay the duty that is implied on all products coming from outside of the CARICOM territory. So that at least should hold prices down a little bit. So we have received that from CARICOM a couple of days ago. So we are trying all kinds of things to make certain that we can stabilize the price. And then you hear on the current side, because the current side exports, sure, the exports receipts haven't gone down, but haven't increased as massive as we should. But let's be blunt about everything about this country. Blunt. Our exports from since Noah built the ark to now have remained more or less the same. This is a mantra. I've said this here in this house all the time. Nobody can come and say something differently. It is the same. So you may be lucky. Gold prices are good today. You see gold export earnings gone up. Tomorrow, or not even tomorrow, by the time you sleep and you wake up, it's gone down back. Gold earnings gone down. The big reason why we are in the position that we are in is that sugar is no longer contributing in a big way. That's number one. Number two, sugar is not getting a preferential price in the European Union. That gone a long time ago. That gone. And we're not getting a preferential price of rice out of Venezuela. We're getting a nice price out of Panama, but nothing like it was getting in Venezuela. Those are facts. They banned the green heart can't get out. Timber exports gone down. This ain't got nothing to do with our government. And this is not excuses you're making. You can't be selling timber, bauxite, rice, sugar, none of which you control the prices, and expect that tomorrow when the prices go haywire, that your export earnings will be stabilized. I mean, what kind of zombie economics is this? This is the reality that we face in this country, and no amount of propaganda can change that. They could tell you how much they had, how much was exports in 2013, 2012, and so on. It's going to be the same thing, that they have a lucky break with gold. They had the Petro-Carib going for the rice, right? And sugar was still doing 100-something thousand, 212,000 tons. All that is gone. The past is dead. Long live the past. We got to think about the future. Yeah. The future is bright. The future is bright. We got 5 billion barrels of oil going to start flowing from 2020 March.
Just now.
And we talking about the past. The past we talking about. And we trying to rile up sugar workers and so on for votes. Talk to the sugar workers on how they could get a piece of the pie come 2020 and beyond. 5 billion and counting. That's where the future lies. That's where the future lies. Not in the past glory of sugar. And you speak to many of the sugar workers. I read some of them where they said, I should have been out of this business a long time ago. Now that they got a severance. They said so. They should have been out of the business a long time ago. One of the reasons they probably wasn't out is the propaganda that they were being fed. Yes. That kept them on that estate. But now they've seen the light. So for them to keep them corralled, for the opposition to keep them corralled, they got to send out these messages, spew out these ethnic, race, this, the government thing, the bottom house, the black government don't like y'all, the government doing this and so on. But all we have to do is get a PR message that says, but the numbers don't add up. You telling us this government don't like we, but here's what they're doing for we. This is what we got to do. The message might be difficult to counter, but you still have to get the message out. And we have to get it out timely. Because those guys not wasting time. Those honorable members not wasting time. They're like the cracks under the highway.
Eating away the foundation.
Eating away at the foundation. So, Mr. Speaker, it is good to come here and talk about all the four accounts of the national economy: fiscal account, real account, balance of payment, demand, sound like a professor. You know? But the long and short, after we strip away all of that, the reality is, what all of that doing for the man in the street? What all that doing for you? Do they have a 300.7 billion alternative budget to give to the man in the street, to give him hope? Do they have that? It is only this government that has put forward a budget. What they have done is put forward a lot of hot air and talk. Talk is cheap.
Yes.
Talk is cheap and talk is plenty. But they haven't put forward an alternative for people who consider themselves to be a government in waiting. They haven't put forward a single recommendation or measure. All they get is the refrain, I cannot support this budget.
No, they said
I cannot support this budget.
select committee, they said select committee.
Oh, yes. Oh, the Honorable Member Odingo Lubumbo, he recommended that we carry the budget to the select committee. Mr. Speaker, this business about the signing bonus come up again. And I saw Mr. Ram's good friend, Mr. Honorable Prime Minister's good friend, Mr. Ram, making the same point in his thing. I wanted to call him and remind him that, hearsay, he being a lawyer, hearsay is not admissible in court, and writing it down and so on could bring liable charges and so on. But he used to be my friend and so on, so I let him ride. I would like Mr. Ram and everybody else to bring the recording and bring the written that I denied that we didn't get a signing bonus. I want them to bring the recording and the written that I denied that we didn't get a signing bonus. I ain't no lawyer, but hey, they asked me 2 questions, and then they answered because I raised this matter before in this house. They didn't ask me if we receive a signing bonus. The question asked of me was whether government receive a $20 million signing bonus. And I said I don't know anything about that. It was 18, but I don't need to tell them it's 18. You go do your homework. Because they didn't get me saying, no, it's not 20, it is 18, that I lie about signing bonus. You didn't ask me no question. You asked me that same question in court. You can't tell me I lied to the court. You asked me a specific question. Did the government receive a $20 million signing bonus? Answer, no. What you want me to do, continue the answer? But I'm telling Mr. Ram openly now, if he accuses me again of lying about signing bonus, it's not going to be this easy. Hinto Benibo. And when Mr. Leader of Opposition make that statement outside where he doesn't have a privilege again, he also take notice. They talk about government decimating some remigrant scheme. It's laughable as it is palpable. We have put in place, we are fed up with the situation where honest, diaspora people are being made to pay for the dishonest. And we have had a lot of dishonesty, quite a lot of dishonesty. Right? People coming here under the guise of remigrant scheme, and the principal thing is to bring home many containers, right? High-end TVs, all kind of story, and high-end vehicles. Then they disappear. I'm not saying everybody, but the significant number of cases of this chicanery has forced us to make changes in the way we do business. And the way we will do business now is that we're going to give you a $5 million tax credit. You can bring whatever vehicle you want after. But you will get a $5 million tax credit. We're not responsible for you bringing no BMW in this place. We're not responsible for that. We said you come back home, we give you up to a certain level, and so forth. The genuine people will come. They will come even without the car. In fact, most of them will come without the car now that they're happy that they can buy the car here within 6 months when they come. They don't have to worry about a left-hand drive car and right-hand drive car. They come here and they could buy it. And they could bring the car where they have to, if they're willing to take the challenges on these very challenging roads that we have. And what is wrong with reducing the limit from 4 years to 3 years? the leader of the opposition, honorable member, jumps up and holler, oh, they won't benefit. Now, if you are a lovely student, bright, go out there, finish your first degree in 3 years, save up all the little pennies you get, was able to buy a little something and come back. You are going to be able to be treated first as a migrant, and secondly, you are going to be able to bring your car. Now, I don't expect you to be no little student who's going to be bringing a BMW.
Exactly.
Yeah? Having served only 3 years in college. Huh? All of us who went to university and so on, if we could have afforded it, bought a little second-hand jalopy, right, to get us around and so on. And then we're ready to come home, we sell it. We sell it. Now we're not even asking you to keep it, have it in your present for 6 months before you come home. You could bring the money home and buy one little something here and go to your work and so. Why is this not a positive for a young person coming home? Why is this not a positive? And it's in recognition of the excellence of young people that we have moved from 4 years. A degree now will take 4 years, a first degree. But they got some excellent youngsters who can do it in 3 years. We are also not committing you to do a degree program. We said 3 years of continuous study. So once you could prove that you went to high school in the United States or UK, 3 continuous years, you reach a level thing and you come home and so on, you're still entitled to. So you're going to do a degree and so forth. The idea is to assist young people. Because I always say we ain't doing nothing for young people. It's to assist young people when they come home back to reintegrate and to have a good life too. You know, you jump in your little car, you go and hang by the place, go by the creek and so on. You got a little thing you have to wait and transfer in the bus. This is how we helping young people where this is concerned. Right? Rolling good. Hashtag help young people.
Yes, yes. Yes, I figured that. Jordan for you.
And then of course, you can't have a debate without hearing about the 50%. You know, even a certain trade union leader, he has picked up the cudgel of the 50%ers, as I like to call them, and has been run with it. So I wrote a letter and I gave up. I wasn't about to continue because he has all day to write. I don't. But this matter has been dealt with ad nauseum, and I don't really think it ought to be repeated ad nauseum. But the simple reality is as follows. The government came in and for reasons that have been stated, decided to increase salaries. One-off. I know it takes a lot of blows, but it's one-off. Not everybody got 50%, only a few people got 50%. Prime Minister got 5%, President got nothing. Prime Minister got 5%, the senior ministers got 50%, the junior ministers got, I think, what, 20-something% or something like that. How much? 19%. Oh, sorry, man. All right, 19. 19%. The MPs got an even smaller percent and so on. And senior minister's salary is the same salary that the Honorable Speaker gets and the Honorable Leader of the Opposition. Please note, the Honorable Leader of the Opposition takes the higher of the two because he can't get both. So he is stuck with the pension. That is our goodly person who loves the poor. He didn't take our 800-something-thousand. He takes the 1.6 million or whatever, tax-free. Tax-free. A pension that he gave himself just before he left office in 2011. We have to repeat it because he like to make the mantra be 50%. Not only did he raise his own salary so that he could get 7/8 of it as a pension, he made 7/8 of the current president's salary. So you know what we have had to do, Mr. Speaker? We're not giving the president any increase too. Because to increase his salary means an increase in pension. Because it's 7/8 of the current salary of the president, the current president. And it's not only the honorable leader of the opposition, he got fellow travelers. Because we got 2 other presidents, former presidents, who get in the identical pension. So we have to hold Excellency, we have to hold him down. Because if we increase his salary, their pensions automatically go up. And for us, they got enough.
Yes. More than enough.
They got more than enough. So whenever the leader of the opposition, anybody talk about the 50, let us talk about the 1-point-something million tax-free pension that he gets. The honorable member gets, okay? That is tax-free. If you round that up, that's 2-point-something million taxable. Nobody here, sitting down here, anywhere here, gets 2-point-something million a month. Nobody here. Not the Prime Minister, not the AG, nobody. So you got people who ain't working as hard as we, earning almost 2 times as much as most of us here. Then pension? Younger than me in the pension. So, Mr. Speaker, I know it's not going to finish. I know the whole story, but it's not going to finish, but it's it. And then you have this story about the members of the discipline services. Mr. Speaker, I am going to say it again. I said it out there, I said it in the House. The PPP civic government paid a 1-month bonus to the discipline services. Monies that were intended to pay salary increases for the entire public service. This is not gossip, Mr. Speaker. This is not rumor. I was there. So this is not gossip or rumor. I am telling you, Mr. Speaker, the PPP civic creamed off money that was meant for the entire public servants to pay the 1-month bonus to the discipline services. And they had an ulterior motive of doing it. They had an ulterior motive of doing it.
Tell us.
It was to keep the rest of the population in line. It was to keep a certain segment of the population in line.
All right.
And it worked for them.
Yeah.
The unfortunate thing, Mr. Speaker, the unfortunate thing about that is that at a personal level, it bothered me when I used to see it doing, because even monies that were left back were sent back to the Treasury.
Oh.
So you saw through what was the whole motive behind it, right? The whole mischief behind it, right? And the second thing, Mr. Speaker, why it bothered me? It bothered me because it's the message, subliminal or otherwise, that it sent. I would leave it at that, but it bothered me and it bothers me up to today. The subliminal message that thing said. And Mr. Speaker, it will continue to bother me because when I learned that certain red jerseys containing certain Grangers was handed out to certain sections of the population in return for certain votes, it bothered me from the standpoint, is this what we have come to? Is this what our forefathers, who came as indentured laborers, who came here as slaves, is this what they fought for? The right to vote can be bought with a jersey and a $5,000? I believe, Mr. Speaker, wherever this is being done, we have to say it's wrong.
Yes.
And we have to call it for what it is.
Yes.
We have to call it what it is. I know it may not be, I don't know if it's against the law or what, but this here goes against the grain of what our forefathers and foremothers fought for. And to be bought with a red jersey and a $5,000 is unspeakable. Unspeakable. And I'm telling all of my brothers and sisters outside not to fall prey to this. Not to fall prey. I ain't saying don't take it. I ain't saying don't take it. Money is money, but don't fall prey. Don't fall prey. Because it will come back again in 2020 elections, there's no question about it. There are deep pockets. There are deep pockets out there, and it will come back. But that's only what I could urge my fellow citizens not to fall prey. Take the money though, but don't fall prey. And so, Mr. Speaker, two or three quick points, because I know we want to get out of here. 2 or 3 just quick
I remember
points. Half an hour more?
you've
Thank
been
you.
speaking for an hour and a half.
Half an hour.
We extend the time to
Half an
another
hour.
half an hour.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Mr. Speaker, we heard that, you're not enjoying? We heard the poor Commissioner General. I know they don't like him, but God bless him. He came at the right time. He came at the right time. And pretty soon, next year, we're going to go past the threshold of $200 billion without increasing taxes. But I don't like him because, without a doubt, he has unquestioned character and integrity, and he cannot be bought. He's not for sale. Yes, we've got GSL, a judgment of $3.8 billion, and I don't know why we want to bring the people's business in here, but just to set the record straight, since the CG cannot speak about taxpayers, nor can he speak in this house, just to keep the record straight, the individual is paying according to an arrangement he has with the GRA. Full stop. That is all we can see. And the Commissioner General is not running around all around the place looking for shopkeepers and vendors and so on. They're not exempted from paying taxes. They are not exempted from paying taxes if they have chargeable income. We cannot have a situation in this country where some paying taxes and others aren't paying. And when you go after to broaden the pool, you get all kinds of big things. Just like the nice story. We're not stopping you from pushing your cart and sell your music. Don't do it in violation of the law. Nobody's stopping the vendors from earning a living, or the shopkeepers or whoever. But when it is that we as a people don't want, we cry out that we're paying too much taxes. But we don't want to talk about these 10 who building all them fancy houses and so on. But they ain't paying no tax. We don't want to say anything. This is not about, first of all, we're trying to register everybody. Everybody under the tax net. If you don't have to pay tax, you won't be registered. But as long as you have to pay tax, you got to register and pay your fair share taxes. I would like to see taxes, income taxes, go down in the next round, when we get our next 5 years, down to 20.
All right. All right. All right.
But the speed with which this can happen depends on whether the willingness of a greater part of the population to pay the rightful taxes. When we gave the amnesty, honorable member jumped out and said we do it because we're friends.
Yes.
Everything is friends. Our friends. We want to. I want to tell the honorable member something. In his case, the only taxable income that he has is his pension. And anything else he is earning, he has to pay taxes. Now, I don't know his file. I don't want to know. I don't want to know anybody's file. But for his sake, I am going to urge him as a friend to pay his taxes on the income that he's earning from the various jobs that he's doing. Come with clean hands. Come with clean hands. not threat. I'm not threat. I don't know his file. I don't know anything. All I'm reminding the public is that the only tax-free that he has is his pension. Okay? That's all. I don't need to threaten anybody. I'm sorry. I don't go down that road at all. I don't need to do such things. But the man is paying his taxes. The man is paying his taxes. We're not harassing any vendors, any sort of thing. We just want you to register. Register. And if you have to pay some kind of tax, pay your tax. And the amnesty was very successful. We gave people 9 months of opportunity to pay. The plus about that is that now they are on the roll. The plus about it is that now we have an idea of their income. And you're going to hear a lot of harassment, especially from a certain sector, how we harass in the gold sector and all this kind of story. We have a wasting asset going down there. And all we're asking people is to pay the rightful tax. And next thing you hear, you're harassing the sector. You know, and so forth. But a significant set of the money came from gold during the amnesty.
Thank God for minors.
You know, thank God for the miners. But thank God now they'll be paying the right taxes. So this has given us an opportunity to put people on the roll, number one, and number two, to get an estimate of what is the income that they're earning. And I think, as I said, come 2020 and in the next 5 years, we will have a tax structure here where all of us could be justifiably proud. It would have moved from what might be called exorbitant to perhaps one that you have too much money. Too much money. But those are some of the things we have in mind. Broaden the tax base, reduce taxes, bring everybody on board. And, you know, and then there's this case of the meters, GPL, that he was talking about, the honorable member was speaking about, GPL, how we gave some contract to some firm. First of all, Ms. Mocha or something. First of all, Mr. Speaker, I think the public should know. The firm that won that contract is a firm that was brought here by that government.
Yeah, them.
By the PPP civic government to do the submarine cable for GPL that's gone across to the West Dem. And they did the substations under the Chinese loan that they took on the last government. Is that same company won this contract here? But one thing that the honorable member was right in saying, that the price at which they won the contract was over $1 billion more than the lowest tender, engineer's estimate. But whose fault is that? This is an international tender financed by the Inter-American Development Bank. So where is the chicanery? Where we as locals are concerned. When anything that is done in the name of an international financial institution has to be done according to their rules.
Yes.
Not our rules. That is one time when our sovereignty has been weakened, because we have to subsume our procurement laws to the laws of the international community. And this is not something that the honorable member doesn't know about. He was a former Minister of Finance. He was a former Minister of Finance, and he was a former governor of several of those international institutions. He's aware of it. He's aware of it. So we can't play around with the IDB finance contract or a World Bank finance contract. We didn't award it to the Chinese. When the evaluators finished and it went up to the IDB, right, they got to sign off on it. Nobody wants to pay $1 billion more than the engineers estimate on any contract. And in fact, that caused a lot of trouble for the phase 2. A lot of trouble because a significant part of the monies was for phase 2, but had to be expended on phase 1. These are facts, and these are facts known. And if they're taking up their position on I think they got members on the board, the GPL, they'll know all of this. They'll know all of this. And if they don't know, they got enough insiders in them places to know anyhow. You know, so let's don't let's no witch hunting. They're there and they're still passing the papers and so on. And then they're speaking about, Mr. Speaker, about us, about me instituting discretionary powers. Mr. Speaker, the budget speech is absolutely clear. What we're trying to do is even things across all the taxes that we have. We did it in 2017, when we did it, for example, with under the VAT Act. If you owe, we bring it on the same thing like the Income Tax Act. We're doing the same thing, Mr. Speaker. In the Income Tax Act and in the Customs Act already lie provisions where the Minister of Finance can remit in whole or in part taxes due for good cause. So all we're doing now is applying it to the VAT Act. I don't care to be given these powers, but the Income Tax Act is older than many of these acts here. The VAT Act is the newest of the acts. The VAT Act is the newest of these acts. And there's no, I don't recall remitting anybody's income tax, to be quite honest, since I've been Minister of Finance. I don't recall remitting any income tax. Where's this thing about how they can go and do it for the friends and so on? Is this the best that the opposition can do? Malign you, stain you, throw mud at you?
Yes, they're good at that, Minister. They're good at that.
For 3.5 years, I don't recall remitting any tax to anybody. I mean, quite frankly, if you know me also, it's going to be a very difficult thing for me telling you to remit taxes. And in the Financial Administration Audit Act, therein also is a section where the Minister of Finance can relieve a debtor of taxes due for cause, and they put the cause there in there. And even there, I don't remember, although I've seen one to come across me. They're very old in age people, but I don't recall signing off on anything such. These are just put there, as we said, to even things across, same treatment across all taxes, because we have also done a case where if you have refunds, you could elect to have the refunds pay another tax that you owe and so on. These are progressive measures, Mr. Speaker. And we mustn't see hidden things under every cupboard or behind every cupboard or on every stool, which they know anyhow, which the opposition knows, which the honourable members know, is not the case. But they have to make these outrageous, comments that, it doesn't get to you, but, still. And the last one I'm speaking about, Mr. Speaker, is this business about we buying vehicles, we using the money to buy up vehicles and all kinds of things. I don't know if my colleagues have got any, but I could speak for myself. The vehicle I got is the vehicle that was purchased by Ashley Singh, former Minister of Finance, using funds that were under the Office of the Prime Minister, and then got a good deal, so he got a car with it. So he was meant to use the vehicle, and his better half, I believe, was meant to use the car. And they were using it. PSS 2010, which is the vehicle I'm using, was Ashley Singh's vehicle. I haven't bought a vehicle. I don't want another vehicle. And the car that was being used, not by an official of the Ministry of Finance, is there. It's lying down most of the time. I don't know why is this need to spread mud based on what the honorable members used to be doing. I don't know. I saw the honorable Prime Minister's a car broke down in Carifest Avenue. Was one of the sick things that they left back. Broke down in Carifest Avenue, they had to push it off the road. And the poor ambassador in Kuwait, he sent us pictures where he broke down in the middle of the people's highway. They had to tow him. But this is not being said to show how frugal we are and so on. This is just said to maintain the reality of the situation. It's not easy to get past His Excellency about new vehicles and so on. And Moses. Yeah, after all, he went to the mountaintop already, he says. He see the promised land, so he ain't have to worry about vehicles anymore. But this is the reality, Mr. Speaker. This is the reality. And people out there should know the facts and must not be led astray in terms of what the opposition trying to sell them. But again, as I said, the onus is on us to sell our case. And so, Mr. Speaker, in coming to the end of this very important debate and session, I want to just indicate something that was said by the UNDP res rep. The UNDP res rep, when she was giving a speech, this right here, a speech. Recently, she gave a speech. UNDP res rep, Ms. Mikiko Tanaka, UN Resident Coordinator, I'm sorry, the title is UN Resident Coordinator. And she was giving a speech to the KG, the Consultative Association of Guyanese Industry, on the 15th of November 2018, about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And what she said is quite instructive, you know, Mr. Speaker. You know why it's instructive? Because you get the self-flagellation that takes place in the media with some of the favored commentators. And this gives you a situation that suggests all things are gloomy, you know, and that we got to be sorry for ourselves and so on. But here is a person who has been here, she says, just about 2 years. And here's what she's saying. In 2 years, she can make this. And I'm going to read a couple of paragraphs of it. It's a good speech, should be made available.
Yes.
She said, Guyana has vision and leadership.
All right.
President Granger's message is clear and consistent. A better life for all Guyanese through an environmentally sustainable, diversified, and inclusive economy and society. The UN system has accompanied the elaboration of the Green State Development Strategy and the many consultations that some of you have been involved in. The strategy is soon expected to go to Parliament and then go to public dissemination. The strategy is comprehensive, aligned to the Sustainable Development Goals and very ambitious, as it should be. Oil will bring in revenues and attract foreign investors to create a few thousand jobs. But the real engine for Guyana's green and human development will come from a modernized agriculture with value chains that can also supply nutritious food to the people. Environmentally and socially responsible mining, quality construction for infrastructure development, tourism, and other services. Implementation will not be easy and requires commitment and discipline. Hard and sustained work over time from governments, state institutions, private sector, civil society, communities, and citizens. The public sector, for sure, needs to seriously shape up into a coherent system of institutions that enables and enforces public servants to serve the public professionally. At the same time, the private sector has some way to go to generate enough employment for Guyanese youth to build up professional standards of work, both in the quality of products and services and in work conditions for the workforce. Oil has put Guyana on the world map and is attracting more foreign companies. So partner with foreign companies with good management and socially responsible practices to invest and innovate for SDG-aligned businesses. Say no to corruption. Corruption only happens if there are takers and givers. End of quote, Mr. Speaker. I think it is fitting, Mr. Speaker, that nothing that has been said in this speech has not been said in that budget. Because you don't have to be an optimist to understand what lies ahead for Guyana. Even a pessimist, even Stevie Wonder, could see that in Guyana there is a paradise waiting to burst open. There's a path to the promised land. You don't have to be like Moses and go up to the mountain. You just have to use what God has given. You don't have to have 20/20 vision. If you have eyes, you will see. If you have the wherewithal, we will get there. Mr. Speaker, at $300.7 billion, I'm not thinking about the biggest budget. I have never once in my speech talked about the biggest budget. Money is not all. It's the quality of the spending that will make us achieve our goals. $300.7 billion is a lot of implementation, Mr. Speaker. And I know we are up to the task. But those will be hollow words. Hollow words if we can't make $300.7 billion work for the intended beneficiaries, the ordinary citizens of this country who elected us and who are depending on us to come through with our promises, who are taking on us, who are depending on us to make their aspirations and dreams become a reality. Mr. Speaker, from promise to prosperity, I rest my case and I commend this budget for passage by this honorable.